pada sesi berikutnya, yaitu partner session, di mana kita akan mendengarkan pembicara, yaitu Bapak Daslim, Head of Enterprise Business dari Diligent, yang kali ini akan mengangkat tema How Internal Auditors Can Transform into Innovative Audit Leaders. Tanpa berlama-lama, langsung saja kita berikan tepuk tangan untuk Bapak Daslim. Kami persilahkan kepada Bapak Daslim.
Wow. Good morning, everyone. This is a lot bigger than I remember. I think last year in Bali, it was great to be there, but I think it was slightly smaller. It seems like it just gets bigger and bigger each year as we come out of COVID, so I think that is fantastic. Hope we get there as well. So, as introduced earlier, my name is Dusk. I lead the enterprise business for Diligent in Asia. Actually, today there was supposed to be another gentleman, Park Eddie, who will have presented on this. He can speak Bahasa, so he's actually more useful than I am in this, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, he was not able to join us today, so do bear with me. I know, unfortunately, I cannot speak Bahasa, so yep, just forgive me for that and bear with me. Thank you. So, to kick things off, for one, I just realized yesterday that the session was 50 minutes. I was like, I am not smart enough to talk for 50 minutes. So it'll likely be shorter. I'll be able to give you a longer break after this as well. So can I move on with the slides? Maybe I'll just do this, yep. So I already introduced myself, I'll move on. So a little bit about who Diligent is, just in case people don't know who we are, kind of thing. I think here in the audience, pretty much most of you, 80–90% of you are all internal auditors. I think most of you will have known us as ACL in the past, or galvanized. So you will know us for data analytics, you will know us for GRC, for audit management, and so on and so forth. So Diligent actually acquired ACL. So we are effectively ACL. So I just wanted to help clarify that and more. So, by buying over ACL, Diligent is now actually the biggest pure play GRC solutions provider in the world. There's a lot of different GRC providers out there, but there is almost none that is at our size that does nothing but audit, risk management, compliance, governance, basically all the things that this audience here will care about. We are probably the biggest software company that nobody has ever heard of. That is Diligent. We have about $600 million in revenue, about 2,000 employees. In Asia, our regional headquarters is actually in Singapore, where we have about 40 employees or so, and some of us are here today. Some of us are actually in IIA Singapore right now, as we speak as well. So a little bit about Diligent. I think these are the 5 core pillars that we focus on. Boards and governance. This is a platform that the board of directors use to collaborate with people like yourself and your CEO, CFO, and so on and so forth. Risk management. Risk management, internal audit and analytics, compliance, and ESG. But for the purpose of today's topic, obviously, it will center a lot around audit and analytics. Yep, so, the title of this session is talking about how to help transform an auditor into an innovative auditor, an innovative leader, right? There's always a lot of conversation around why do people want to innovate? Why do people want to use technology? Will that take away people's jobs? That is very much not the intention. While using robotics and software can help to automate certain processes, make your life easier, make your auditee's life easier, you are the one who will be in the deciding power. You will be the person who will be empowered to make more strategic decisions. I think that bit is very important. And with that, today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about when you can apply technology in the context of internal audit. We'll talk about how to prioritize where to apply technology. Then we'll have just end off with a little bit about generative AI, which is on everybody's mind today as well. So when can you apply technology? There's 3 things there, right? Technology does a lot of things. But we don't want to do digital transformation for the sake of doing digital transformation. We want it to bring value to people. And we sort of classify it as taking advantage of three things. We empower you to take advantage of your data. Technology allows you to take advantage of automation. It allows you to take advantage of collaboration. Now, why and how? That's probably the more important thing. Yep, so I think the first thing being when we look at something like continuous controls monitoring, for example, that is a buzzword that has been going on for quite a while. The different IIA chapters around the world has been advocating for this. The fundamental idea, whether it's continuous assurance, continuous audit, continuous monitoring, the idea is the same. The idea is to allow you to set up a framework where you are continuously evaluating critical internal controls against a baseline set, a basic set of conditions. This tends to focus on the very business as usual kind of process areas at this point. It allows people to just, because there's a lot of very big organizations here. Even among the sponsors, we look at people like PT Pertamina, we look at Astra, for example. Huge organizations, a lot of subsidiary, a lot of spend, a lot of procurement. If you're only going to audit the spend or the cash outflow once every 2 years, 3 years based off your audit cycle, if there's actually leakages, if there's money going out the door, the money is long gone before you even catch on to it. So doing something like this allows you to provide an early warning capability to the organization. Now, who does this, right? Internal audit has the chance to do this themselves, but at the same time, more often than not, this is initiated by audit, and then it sort of gets monitored by the first and second line of defense as well. And the good thing about this is that this allows internal audit to take on a very strategic role. Instead of being a police, it allows internal audit to actually help the organizations protect themselves better against fraud, waste, and leakages. Taking advantage of data as well. Some of you may have heard of the term agile auditing. We are a huge advocator of that, right? Simply because if you look at traditional internal audit plan where it is planned out for a year, 3 years, it might be risk-based. It does not actually give you a lot of room to respond to emerging risk, right? 12 months ago, if I came to you and told you that, hey, Russia is actually going to invade Ukraine, nobody is really thinking about COVID anymore. Supply chain might remain to the norm. Oil prices will go up and down. And a few banks in US will just collapse overnight. You have to look at me and say, I'm crazy. But risk emerges really quickly. And a lot of times the idea when you're able to do continuous data audit, it's actually to facilitate the fact that, let's say you have 100% capacity of internal audit, you could plan for 60, 70% of it, leave 30% to basically allow you to do almost real-time audit planning based on where risks are emerging to react to those. There's a lot of banks here. A lot of you are in the banking sector here as well. A bank in Indonesia typically has hundreds, if not thousands, of branches that spread all across the country. Imagine if you're able to do continuous risk assessment of the branches. So on a monthly basis, you can quickly decide which are the branch where there might be potential risk and just plan an audit to the branch immediately. So you're able to really react to risk really, really quickly. Audit the actual risk areas or businesses that has that risk, that matters. That helps you to prioritize. That saves your auditors time. That also make your auditees feel less tired of you as well. Taking advantage of automation. We all know with internal audit, there's always a few very, very painful process. There's a lot of manual task tracking, when you send out requests for information, when you're asking people for support evidences, and so on and so forth. You literally, a lot of times, have to use a spreadsheet to keep track of all the requests, who you sent it to, the due date. Have to go in to check what is due, and then just go out there and chase them immediately. The same concept applies for issues and actions. Issues tracking, issues management, action plans tracking. This is one of the most painful part of an auditor's job and an auditee's job as well. How do you use a technology to help you chase, right? If there is an action plan that is overdue, you don't have to be the one searching the email to go and remind them. Let technology take care of you. Let technology chase people for you. Don't do that. And of course, audit report. This is a favorite one because so many auditors easily spend 2 to 3 days just creating an audit report. And the truth is, the content of the audit report, it already sits somewhere in their working papers, in their Excel spreadsheets, or somewhere else. They're just trying to put things together. It wastes so much time. Now, if you're able to just quickly use technology to do a one-click report, and you might say, oh, it's a very fixed template, it doesn't work. But imagine if the one-click report can be in PowerPoint. So straight away, it is ready for your committee and your board reporting purposes. Imagine if it's in Microsoft Word. You want to make some minor amendments, you can do that. But you don't, the most important thing is you don't repeat the whole process and build the report from scratch and spend 2-3 days doing it. You spend 2 hours on it, maybe, instead. So that automation will allow you to then get a lot of time back, whether you want to use that to do more strategic work, or you just want to use that to spend more time with your family, which is what I will encourage you to do. I think that is fantastic. And it also helps that a lot of you travel a lot around Indonesia and around the region, around the world as well. Doing something like this will help make sure that at the end of an audit or during an audit at night, you don't have to go back to the hotel and try and catch up on your working papers, on your audit report again. Let the system do that for you. Enjoy your dinner, go to bed. That's the idea there. Taking advantage of collaboration. This is a huge one. I was in Manila about 2 months ago, spoke to some board of directors, some people on the audit risk committee, and one of the biggest challenge they have is that the chairman of the audit and risk committee or the audit and risk board is one person. That same person, right? There's a separate risk team. There's a separate internal audit team. They use different methodology. They use different taxonomies. They use different frameworks. So ultimately, when they report to the board, it is different. They see a different risk, they see a different risk rating. To each of them, it makes sense. To the head of internal audit, it makes sense. This is what I see, this is how I do my job. Makes sense to me. To the head of risk, chief risk officer, same thing, it makes sense to me. To the chairman of the audit and risk committee, it makes no sense. Because he is one man, he is one department, seeing both. So the ability to actually effectively align the taxonomies and framework across the 3 lines of defense, especially between risk, internal audit, and compliance, is extremely important because that allows for aligned communications to the board of directors. It allows them to make more strategic decisions, to make properly informed decisions with just one single source of truth. Now, sounds great. But we all know what happens. If audit is using a software and you go to risk management and say, hey, I'm using a software, it's good, I think we should use the same software. Risk management will look at you and, no, I want to use my software. Why should I make your life easier and use your software? There's always a little bit of that. We are all human beings, right? So the next question then being, in order to encourage risk management to align with you, get on the same platform with you, it cannot come from a place of how it helps internal audit. It has to come from a place of how do you help risk management do their job better? And the byproduct of that is actually being aligned on one technology and one framework and one platform. And at the same time, you solve risk management's biggest challenge. What are some of risk management's biggest challenge that we see today? The risk and control self-assessment process, the issues management process, the risk events tracking, risk monitoring, and risk reporting. These are all processes that's extremely complex. It's very, very time consuming for them. They do all their RCSA, chase 500 different risk owners around the organization, try and track them to respond, and then try and consolidate the 500 responses into a report. Crazy. It's difficult. And then when they go to the board just say, oh, this is great. Can you tell me more about this particular risk just for Jakarta or Sulawesi? And then the poor risk guy is like, oh, now I have to redo my whole risk reporting. There's no dynamic reporting, etc., etc. So when you have proper technology in place to help automate all these things, believe me, bring it to risk management, they'll be more than grateful to take your suggestion. They'll be more than happy to speak to you as well. And therein lies true collaboration. Where do you apply technology? This is something, I'm not going to say whether it is right or wrong. I'll leave it for you to decide and have a think about it. A lot of times we focus on what we call key risk indicators or KPIs or KCIs, right? How organizations take advantage of data or your internal audit and risk management process to look at risk indicators. And there's always 5 questions around looking at indicator. How accurate is it? How precise is it? How available is it? Availability referring to the data points. How aligned is it to an organization's strategic goals, to the board of directors' vision, to the CEO vision, and how well defined is it? Now, we have come to the realization that today most organizations are very focused on the first 3. How accurate, how precise, and how available is it? Diligent privacy ACL is also in part to blame for that. A lot of times, simply because there are some business as usual processes that we are so comfortable with, when we first start off doing continuous monitoring, we start off with things like procurement, payroll exceptions, travel and expenses exception. Great. Why does everybody do that? It's a good place to start, don't get me wrong. People do that because the data is readily available. It is in SAP, it is in Oracle, it is in your accounting system. The data is there. People do that because it's already been pretty well defined in the market. People know what a duplicate invoice looks like. People know what 3-way matching is. This has already been very well defined by a lot of principals, a lot of organizations all over the world. And people tend to do that. Now, the question is this. How many of you have ever gone into a board of director meeting and have the audit chairman tell you they are worried about payroll exceptions? Or they are worried about duplicate invoices? Very few. Very little, right? So it kind of almost ends up in the case, and that actually came from board of directors' feedback to me that my auditors are constantly not giving me what I want. They are focused on auditing outflow, etc., but they are not focused on more strategic risk. And then when I talk to the auditors, they are like, but this is what we have been set up to do. And at the same time, then because the auditors are worried, they don't know what the board of directors want, they end up going to every single audit committee meeting with like 50 pages of different reports, just to on hand, be ready with it. Now, then comes the next question. Right. If those, we still want to do those, but we want to make those very much business as usual, you want, as internal auditors, to be very aligned to the CEO's vision, what we call the CEO's or the board of directors' big problems, right? Believe me, duplicate invoices is not their big problem. They are not worried. They are worried, but they are not worried, if you get what I mean. By attaching yourself as internal auditors to the board of directors' bigger challenges and problems, not only do you make yourself look more innovative, you will now become a more valuable advisor to them as well. As an example, board of directors today, if you ask them what kind of risks are they worried about, typically the same: cybersecurity, third party and supply chain, ESG. So the risk areas, the processes that the board and the senior management is worried about has actually fundamentally shifted from the more traditional audit cycles around P2P, payroll, T&E, order to cash, and so on and so forth, into technology-related risk, supply chain-related risk, ESG-related risk as well. So our message then to auditors is take advantage of technology to just automate as much of the business as usual, the procurement, payroll stuff as possible, and start thinking about how you can actually drive more value and align yourself better to that 3 risks that we spoke about as well. And I'm sure, most of you here will have heard your CEO, your board of directors talk about that at some point, how worried they are about cybersecurity, how worried they are about ESG and supply chain, for those of you especially in the manufacturing business as well. So, what about generative AI, you say? And this is something that literally we just started putting together very recently as well. What is the role that artificial intelligence can play in the realm of internal audit, in the realm of GRC? Right now, this is how we look at it, and this is just our opening cut. What Diligent thinks, what I also think, are the fundamental use cases around artificial intelligence in the year of 2023 and early 2024. Of course, this will continue to be refined as the large language models continue to improve as well. The first one being having something like an AI chatbot. Sorry, could you go back? having an AI chatbot to support your day-to-day work in a GRC platform, having a little chat assistant there that at any one point you're able to just type in questions like, what are my outstanding issues for next week? What are the upcoming audits for this particular team? Asking that chatbot questions and having it give you those responses instead of wasting time trying to build reports and so on and so forth, having AI do that work for you. The second thing that we see a lot of potential in is what we call publicly curated risk. Taking advantage of AI to the point where if it would be wonderful if with a GRC platform, with any organizations here, you can put in, when you start using a platform like that, you can actually put in your profile. What kind of industry are you in? How many employees do you have? Which countries you operate in? The system can then use publicly available information to curate and pull out, hey, you know, Mr. ABC customer, you're in the mining industry. This is what a mining organization of yourself tend to see in the ways of risk. And you can decide whether that should form part of your risk register or not. Similar to controls, the system suggests the risk. You accept it and say, yes, this is a risk for organization. The system should then be able to suggest to you, great, not great. This is the risk. These are some of the mitigating actions and internal controls that you can put in place to mitigate those risks as well. And last but not least, the last one is a very shameless plug for ourselves. A lot of you here know we use ACL, we do ACL data analytics, and very much we are looking to take advantage of generative AI to help build out Python scripts, build out ACL scripts that allows you to just quickly get on board with data analytics. So these are just some of the use cases we see to help organizations, audit leaders like yourself, be more innovative, to move faster. So with that, actually I have come to the end of my presentation. I'm not sure if there's going to be a Q&A session, but does anyone have any questions, maybe? No? Cool. This is exactly what I thought. I just need half the time. Well, thank you all very much for your time today here, and have yourself a good rest of the afternoon. Thank you.